advertising. The beginning of advertising began in civilizations of our ancient world. Merchants and artisans would advertise their products to sell to the public. At the scene of the Pompeii volcanic eruptions, archaeologists found what remains of ancient advertising placed back to 79 AD. By 1784, the Pennsylvania Packet and Daily Advertiser, America's first successful daily newspaper, starts in Philadelphia. By 1870, there were over 5,000 newspapers in circulation, which carried advertising, and the demand for advertising services, which was rapidly growing. More sophisticated ads emerged with decorative font styles and reverse type on black backgrounds. Black and white with tone areas was the main means of illustration on relief presses before photography and offset printing. And the strategy of early advertising was to convince the buyer of the quality of the product. The first advertising agents were essentially resellers of newspaper space. Volney Palmer opened the first advertising agency in Philadelphia in 1841 and is possibly the first person to use the term advertising agency. N.W. Ayers & Son opened in 1869, but by 1877 it acquired the remains of the original Volney Palmer agency and therefore laid claim to the oldest advertising firm in the U.S. Agencies expanded into cities like New York, Baltimore, and Boston. They developed the open contract, which guaranteed clients the lowest possible rates the agency could negotiate with publications. The agency would employ an art director in 1898. The sciences of advertising. Shortly after the first ad agency opened, people started to look at the psychology of advertising. The first psych theory of advertising maintained that the consumer was a non-rational, suggestible creature under the hypnotic influence of the advertising copywriter. Psychologist and professor Walter Dill Scott studied psych as an important element in advertising. He also wrote many books on the topic, and he questioned people on their reactions to the advertisements. Ernest Elmo Calkins developed the business triangle. The business triangle is a link between advertising, the consumer, retailer, and manufacturer. It enables trademarking and branding. Researchers realized that people are attracted to large, bold letters with nice spacing. This would be called the typography of an ad. Advertising agencies started to try and manipulate women in their ads. The advertisements would contain information that would be specifically aimed at women, and usually not for a traditional cause. An example of this would be cigarettes for weight loss. Art directors who came from Europe. There were many artists who came from Europe to America to find success. Alexei Brodovich started off as an officer in the Russian military before he began his journey. He would eventually flee from Paris and become a painter for Ballet Russe. He ventured further into the artistics world and started doing fabric and design layout for Matières Graphiques magazine. He would eventually be invited into the Philadelphia Museum of Art to create an advertising art department in its museum school. Alexei Brodovich would be urged by Caramel Snow, editor of Harper's Bazaar, to become the art director for her magazine. He would stay for 25 years. Brodovich, an immigrant, influenced the look of American periodicals. Herbert Bayer fled Germany from New York. He organized an exhibit about the Bauhaus in the Museum of Modern Art in New York. He would later move to Colorado in 1946 to work with Walter P. Paypike. Bayer supervised over the design of the new Aspen Institute. He would later move from Aspen to California in 1974. There, he would make Mill Creek Canyon earthwork. Madison Avenue. Madison Avenue, an influential street in New York City, can be considered the hub of American graphic design for the past 100 years. Influential designers from around the world travel to this center of creativity to live and prosper doing what they love. William Golding, a notorious designer and businessman, is commonly known as the man that made NBC better. A young entrepreneur, William Golding died at a young age, yet shot the designer world at its roots during his life. William Birnbach quite literally became famous for simply being William Birnbach. One of the most unique graphic designers in the U.S., he worked on products ranging from Levi's bread to Volkswagen adverts. Often working specifically in TV advertisements or posters, his advertisements were even brought out and put in designer magazines. Leo Burnett is known as the master of symbols for a reason. Having worked on ads for Marlboro and the forefather of modern cereal marketing, Leo had quite the reputation. Jean Frederico was an avid supporter for women's rights during her career, and it reflected in her work. During a time and market dominated by the male gender, this was no small feat. She later founded the Women's Day magazine. Otto Storch may be viewed as one of the most strange yet unique advertisements artists from Madison Avenue, often shaping his advertisements through text or picture distortion. His work became highly acclaimed, initially hailing from France. C. Pinels founded her own magazine and was the first woman in history to be invited to join an all-male art foundation. She retired after many years and even went into the company's Hall of Fame. Bar none, the most influential person from Madison Avenue, Flora Cowles was a century-old superstar. Working in more projects and having published more ads than many even today, she obviously stands out. Founder of the notorious Flare magazine, her biggest regret was not making it the success it could have been. It was a short-lived wonder.